Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, the latest in the series of Mission Impossible films. This is the 7th and it's just arrived on 4K disc. Previously, the 6th film Fallout, which I thought was a terrific 4K disc, had one or two issues perhaps, but the whole series, there was a box of 5 issued previously to this. How well does this new film stand up? Keep watching to find out more. As much as I've enjoyed the latest instalment in the series, I think I preferred number 6, but I'd have to watch them again to really check that out. But of them all, the one that sticks in my memory, I think is number 4, and whichever one it is, it's got Tom Cruise actually hanging off the side of an enormous skyscraper. I forget where it is, but I think it was the tallest building in the world at the time, possibly still is. And I think that's in number 4. I think that's the most memorable, and that sequence was shot genuine IMAX. I think they might have had some genuine IMAX in number 5 as well, but number 4 is the one that stood out to me. I didn't like number 3 much because of the shaky cam approach, and ironically that's J.J. Abrams who directed that, who I'm a big fan of. His film Super 8 and a couple of others. Force Awakens, a Star Wars film, I thought those two were terrific, but there have been others as well. But the 7th film is a bit different, and it's shot entirely on video, this one, and so when it first came on and it had an authentic looking film grain, I wondered if some of it had been shot 35mm, but alas no, it's just shot in a combination of 4K, 4.5K and 6K, and all shrunk down. But because there's some 6K in here, I think it's going to be as good as any 35mm of top quality that you'll see. It's maybe a bit brown, the colour. It's not the best colour you've seen anyway, but all our systems vary, and you may find on some of your OLED tellies, I know some of you really do rave about those, you've got an extremely colourful image. Now, I don't particularly care for really extreme colours most of the time, but there are sequences in this where it's outdoors and you've got the shot of the mock-up of the Orient Express and it does look beautiful. So I think this is a very good 4K image quality. It comes with Dolby Vision as well as HDR, so for those of you with those facilities you've got the options, but also Dolby Atmos sound, and I know many of you do rave about your Dolby Atmos setups. In here, as I keep saying, I'm running THX 5.1. This sound is sensational, as you would expect for a modern action film. Now, it didn't do too well in the cinemas, and I think there might be some reasons for that. It had an estimated budget of $291 million and took at the worldwide box office so far $568 million. It's probably still got some markets in the world that it's taking money at, but that's as it stands as I record this. Looking at it in here last night, I think it probably should have done much better than it did, but it's not as good as Tom Cruise's previous epic, Top Gun Maverick, which was a blockbuster in every sense. This one maybe had a few things working against it. I felt that for the first half at least it was a little too comedic. I rather appreciated that, but I did feel that maybe that helped to lose its audience. I know since Simon Pegg got introduced, the comedy had come into it more and more, and I like that about it. I'd more or less warmed to the Mission Impossible series as a result of that, but for this market, for these films, maybe that was a little too much. Also, this was being passed off as an IMAX film, which of course it wasn't. It was shot entirely on video, as I said, and shortly after this was released, everyone was getting ready for the IMAX release, the genuine IMAX release of Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Now, not all of that film was IMAX, most of it was 70mm, but of course those genuine IMAX sequences, there's nothing else like it, and that probably did adversely affect the box office of this Mission Impossible. So possibly a lesson there for the filmmakers, that if you want to get the best box office now from something you're going to suggest is IMAX, you really should include at least one IMAX sequence in it, and then I think people will flood to those IMAX cinemas as they did to the BFI IMAX, the Science Museum and the Manchester Printworks over here for the genuine IMAX presentation of Oppenheimer. The aspect ratio on this disc is approximately 2.40 to 1, which is great in here because I've got it set up with all the aspect ratios on the masking, and just like cinemas everywhere used to, and some or most still do today, the masking opens up to give you the biggest possible image in the cinema. So that's my favourite aspect ratio, always has been. Anything scope, I've always preferred that to the taller aspect ratios of any kind, except I have to admit, humble pie here, when I'm sat in an IMAX, and I now have to accept that IMAX was suitable for feature films. Another thing that might have worked against it, being part 1. I can remember The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, and people were so upset that it wasn't a conclusive film. It didn't conclude at the end, it was just another part in an ongoing saga, and they were going to have to wait 2 or 3 years for the next instalment. Maybe that's another thing that worked against it. But also, the plot in this, I don't think it matters that it was a bit silly as far as I was concerned, a load of nonsense, because this is all about action and having fun in a cinema on a big screen with a big film. No end of action, fantastic stunts, and most of it done in camera. There are some computer generated images added to it afterwards, it seems, but overall a genuine piece of filmmaking. So the story, some artificial intelligence is threatening the world. It just all felt a bit silly to me, and so word of that might have got around and it might have put people off going into cinemas, which is a shame because the action in this and the money they spent on creating everything, absolutely sensational. And so despite my reservations, it's so spectacular that I can't help but like it. And if you've got a really big screen telly, or you've got a video projector where you can project it on the largest wall possible, I think this one has got to be in your 4K collection. It's so sensational to look at and listen to. I can't think there are going to be many people that don't enjoy it. I found on my system in here using the Optoma UHZ50 video projector, which has got a laser as a light source. The HDR was too bright, and so I had to play around with the settings before I watched to get the best out of it. And throughout, actually, I had a bit of a fiddle with the HDR because it's so easy. On the Panasonic players, you just hit the HDR button and you can go down or up in quantities of 25%. And so that worked out fine in the end, but that's something to bear in mind before you sit down to watch this. Just check it, even if it's Dolby Vision. Just check that you're not getting too bright a result, because that can wash out your image. The sound I thought was fabulous, as I said. The picture was very good, if not brilliant, but I do think there are much better out there. This one is getting on for 3 hours long at about 2 hours 45, something like that, so you've got to be prepared for a long sitting here. And I found that it was dragging a little bit in places, but my wife did not find that, and she just thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing and was taken in, enjoyed the humour, enjoyed the action and the spectacular scenery. So I think she's right. I think I will enjoy this one a lot more the second time I watch it, but I did very much enjoy it this time. Maybe not everyone will, but as I said, it's so spectacular. I don't think there are many people who won't appreciate it. Now, this cost £25, all but a penny, from HMV. Now, that's pretty standard for new releases. It's a very good 4K disc, so I don't object to that. And if I can support the new releases, then we should get many more. There are steelbook versions available, and I think Keith at Euphoria will undoubtedly be purchasing the red and black steelbook. I'd almost put money on that, but they're £35 all but a penny, and I didn't feel that I wanted to spend £35 on a film that I was likely not to find to be one of my favourites. However, on the same day, American Graffiti got released on 4K, and this one did have a beautiful steelbook, and this steelbook was only £25, all but a penny. So this film was shot Techniscope. I won't go into detail of that just yet, but well, look it up. This poor man's 35mm at half the cost. So you would not expect this to look anywhere near as good as what's shot with the latest video equipment, would you? So we'll see what we think of this one when I take a proper look at it in a couple of days' time. So anyway, I think that brings us to the end. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and perhaps consider subscribing so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating content like this. Until the next video, bye bye for now.